one of our clients, and she comes representing the project that will research the grad and adult students. And Kim will tell you all about what she would like for you to research and cover. And Kim, just know that after you give them kind of all that stuff, whatever you want to talk about, they know what they have to be able to produce for you. They have to be able to produce a proposal, a research proposal for you. And so at the end, I'm sure they'll have some questions for you that'll help them fill in the gaps so they can leave knowing that they can write a research proposal. Okay, so for you guys, you will leave the class, just in case we get out and you have to leave like Audrey always does. No, it's fine. She has to ditch right out of here. It's totally fine. But just in case we go to the very end and there's questions being asked, what are you responsible for? You are responsible for writing a research proposal for this project. Okay? It doesn't have to be due on Monday. It'll be due on Wednesday. So you don't have to, but remember you have another one on Monday to do also for Wednesday. So I'd go ahead and do it, but you can ask me questions about it on Monday, things like that, but I would start working on it, a research proposal for this project. Whether you're going to be on it or not, you're factoring, do I want to be on this project, and getting practice writing a proposal. Okay? Kim, we're videotaping, and that's for Colin, because he can't be here for baseball.
Hey, Colin.
I know. And so he's only watching it for the purposes of writing his proposals as well.
Are we rolling?
I think we're rolling.
Is he getting that?
We're live.
Awesome.
She said I need Colin.
So, Colin.
Hi, Colin.
Hi, Colin. Very nice.
Yep. Okay, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm getting sick, so I might lose my voice. All right, so I'm going to describe the kind of research that we would like to get out of this, and then also tell you a little bit about the audience. Who are they? Some details about like where you can find them, maybe how you can get in touch with them, and then I'll tell you how we are going to use this information, how we typically use it. Every so often here at MNU, we like to do what we call a marketing census of a certain student population, and it's something that's actually been in our marketing plan to do every other year for both undergrads and then our professional and graduate degree students. And it is time for us to do it for the professional and graduate students. So when we say marketing census, we're talking about a very broad base of questions that is asked so that we can do things like get a better idea of what media those students use and respond to in their day-to-day life, and then also what did they use when they were searching for degree programs and comparing them. And then we like to get an idea of some of their other general sets of behaviors. So like where do they find news, and who do they compare to MNU, broadly who influenced their decision to come here and things like that. So, but to give you a little background about professional and graduate studies, they are a group of almost 1,000 students here at MNU that attend class at night and on the weekends largely. They've grown by almost 100% in the last 5 years, so we've had a lot more of them than we ever have had before, and they actually equal the amount of traditional undergraduate students like you guys that we have. So there's, for as many traditional undergrads as you see on campus, there are that many adults that are either earning their bachelor's or graduate degree in the evening. There are also a handful of postgraduate certificate programs that we have. So there are 3 categories of this population: bachelor's degree seekers, graduate degree seekers, and then certificate seekers that have to have already a graduate degree. So there are 3 broad segments in there. And the programs that we offer are in 4 major areas. They're in business, education, counseling, and nursing are the 4 broad departments that offer these programs. So within those groups and programs, there's a variety of different like audience segments. There are people that are full-time employees and they are looking for career advancement. There are people that were like you and they went to college and they dropped out or didn't finish for a number of different reasons. There are people that just need a credential because they're seeking a promotion. And then there are people that are doing it really for their own personal benefit or like a personal goal. So there are a lot of different messaging structures that we need to know how to use. What's the most important? Is the biggest group of our population that are seeking graduate degrees, are they concerned about career advancement, or are they seeking a graduate degree because they want to? That really changes how we talk about our degrees in literature like this that we produce for these programs. So you can see right now this is literature for a couple of programs for the completion and graduate degrees. And this is really career focused in the messaging, because the last time we did this, a lot of the research came back and said, okay, graduate students are doing this so that they can advance their career, almost all of them. I mean, they really want career advancement. They know the kind of industry that they want to work in if they're not. So they need something that can either help them advance or make a change into the area that they want to be qualified to work in. And bachelor's degree seekers in business, our adults typically need a credential. So again, very career-oriented language. They're in a job right now and they don't have a bachelor's degree. A lot of times that holds them back from promotions at work. So our language in business publications is career-oriented. If that gives you an idea of kind of how we work this all the way down and how it's useful to us. But the other ways that we use this information, we use it to inform our language that we use when we write ads for certain programs. So again, we don't want to write an ad for the counseling program that sounds the same as it does for the Master in Business Administration program. Two totally different types of degree seekers concerned about two totally different types of things. So we use it for that. We use it to craft content on our website. We use it to buy, to influence what radio we buy. So this is a radio schedule that I look at every single month in my office. And we're constantly adjusting, like, what time of day do we buy our radio ads and what stations do we buy them on? What do our adults listen to radio? The last time we took the survey, our adults really listen to radio. And we asked them, you know, what time of day do you listen to it? What stations do you listen to? When do you have it on? Do you remember hearing some of our ads? So things like that that help us know that we're not just throwing our dollars away. So we're not just saying, oh, what do you do? Oh, we do radio, we do this, we do some ads. We do radio with intention because we have data from marketing census that tells us why it's a good idea and what stations are strategic for us to be on. So I've mentioned that we've done this before. In 2010, actually Professor Wallenstein did the last census for this audience. So there is an older survey instrument that was given to them, and it identified broadly like media habits, what kinds of news outlets these students pay attention to. So where do they get their day-to-day news? That's helpful for us because sometimes we'll decide that we want to advertise in some digital format and we don't know what sites to be on. Should we do a Facebook campaign, Pandora? Well, what about, I wonder if anybody's reading like the local news website. So what of those ideas is a good idea? Then we reference our marketing census to try to make that decision. There's also some research that is available from a group called Staymates. It's spelled S-T-A-M-A-T-S. And it's called their Student Talk Survey. It's not widely available, like you couldn't go download a copy of it, but I have a copy of it. And I get a copy of it every year. We subscribe to it. It's a study that's done that is very similar to this, but it's done of a super broad group of adults across the nation. And it's really that kind of a census, just like the one that Professor Wallenstein did that identified media habits combined that we need to do this year. So the Staymates one is very broad. We want to know a lot of the same questions they're asking for our specific audience. Some other good sources of secondary research, though, there are a lot of studies about the habits and behaviors of this group that are out there in higher ed because it's a really popular topic right now. And there are businesses, some of them are called Ruffalo Cody, the name of one marketing group that really deals with this. Don't worry, you don't have to remember this right now. I'm just telling you there's other stuff out there that does exist. It's not. It's not. No. We almost hired them.
We did.
Oh, you did? Oh, for phone. Yeah, sorry. So my office didn't hire them. So they have all, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, for
Must
that.
be a different arm of them.
They did not ask them back, so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so that group publishes a lot of studies on the behaviors of adults. Noel Levitz is another huge marketing firm that specializes in higher ed, and they have a lot of data available, like white papers and things like this about this group. And again, it's very broad, like that Staymates study, it tells you like, okay, a bachelor's degree student will only consider programs that are less than 2 years in length. A graduate student is willing to go to school for 3 or 4 years. So very broad, but some good data that's available. So at this point, we just need to repeat our earlier efforts. We need fresh information so that my office can kind of be very certain that we're using accurate data when we do things like buy radio, even when we place, this is billboard creative, and so we don't just like to slap this together in our office and say, oh, what would make a good billboard? We like to say, oh, well, who's it geared towards? Who's the audience? What are they concerned with? What messages resonate with them? craft a message based on that. And then even when we place billboards, where we buy them, it's like, well, I mean, I don't want to just buy any available billboard because they're kind of expensive. So should I buy them where our students live? If a lot of them live here but work in another area, that's a good question to ask. You know, where are you working? Where are you coming from when you come to MNU? So there's a lot of information from a census like this that's valuable as we plan actual marketing activities. So I would say we're looking for, you know, broadly, what are their media habits? Who do they listen to? How are they influenced? Who did they compare? What do they read? And then who are they? Where do they live? How many kids are in their home? You know, why are they getting their degree? So we do our next media buy in May. We start negotiating rates. Here at Mid-America, our budgets work in a fiscal year. So you've probably taken some finance classes that talk about fiscal year is just the way that an organization divides up their budgeting. And ours doesn't follow a calendar year. Ours restarts July 1. And so during the months of May and June, we're negotiating things like, okay, what stations are we going to be on in the next 6 to 12 months? What billboards are available in the next 6 to 12 months? What kind of other ad opportunity can we have? What kind of publications do we think we want to be in? And then we start working on all of that very quickly. So we start writing the content, creating the artwork, and laying out things based on that plan. So that'll happen starting in May this year. So we're hoping to have data by April, sometime in mid to late April, to use. So that hopefully that'll work out with really good time with all of you. I also have a goal of a very strong response. These students are a little difficult to reach, so I just want to be transparent with you. Because they come at night, they're not here when you are typically available. Some of you are athletes, or you're involved in ASG or other organizations, or you have stuff, you work, you have a separate job, so you might not necessarily be available when they are. So that means you would just have to be creative about your method of contacting them. Yes, a survey is a great idea. It would be great to identify, okay, these are key areas where focus groups would also be helpful for us. They all respond to email. The good news is they respond to email much more than you do, much more than you do, because they have real lives and real jobs, and it's just a part of their day-to-day life. So we can get access to their emails through all of the program offices that work with them. So through the business office that works with these programs, through the nursing office. It's a little bit difficult, but we can get to them. But you know, finding times for focus groups might be a challenge. Again, just to be transparent, they're adults and a lot of them have families, and a lot of them, almost all of them work. So it's just getting creative and being able to, you know, ask a broad enough number of people that you're getting, you know, if you get a 3 or 4% response rate, it's enough people to have a focus group with. We also have, in addition to our Olathe campus, so they come here at night, and there are a couple buildings down the street that they come to. They also attend class in Liberty, Missouri, and that's really important because that campus often gets isolated from efforts like this, and there are just over 100 students that go to school in Liberty, again, for like counseling, business, and nursing programs. So we would want to make a concerted effort to include them, either by ensuring that they're on the email as we're surveying, or we're having, you know, one opportunity for a Liberty focus group for the specific area that we think is good to do a deep dive into, but we don't want them to get left out. There are a handful of programs that are also 100% online, where there's the option for them to be online. So I'm just telling you, again, it's good to have multiple components to the census, multiple ways to reach people and ask them the same amount of information. In our office, we've always wanted to get to the point where we could have like a week, a dedicated week where we do the census, and we have like a kiosk that's set up, and CNFA Commons and in Liberty with the computer, and they get something for taking a survey, and then they can tell us if they are open to sharing more, and we can go back, and those are our people for the focus groups. But we've never been able to get there. That's a lot of coordination. That's not something that's a must-do. It's just been a dream that we've never been able to pull off. I realize that it requires some technology access to, which might be difficult, but in the past when it's been done, it's just been a survey instrument and focus groups. So that would really be enough this time around. I think that's all of the information I came at least prepared with for an overview. I will tell you addition to the budget that's available through your class, which you'll have access to some funds so that you can do things like, okay, thanks for taking our survey, here's a thank you gift, or you get entered to win something. We have some additional dollars available through the budget in our office. I'm not sure if your other client can offer that, so you might have a little more to work with if you are interested in this project. So let's say that you get a strong response and you come to me and say, we have enough people for 3 focus groups, and we can't pay for that out of the funds in our class. We'll cover that. So there is that flexibility because it's a project that we would have to do anyway. So we have budgeted for it on our side. So we won't just use you as free labor. But what questions do you have? I mean, this kind of information, yes, it's broad. Some of it is a little more specific, like when you get down to actually, okay, well, what are you listening to? What do you watch at night? Are you watching cable TV, network television? What is it? But, when we talk about the section that we ask questions about their attitudes and behaviors, it does, it helps us even think like, oh, all these people told us that they were hanging out in their break room, and we don't have anything for our admissions team to use or to drop off at a school or a hospital or a church. We have this nice literature, but it's going to get lost, and I don't want this tacked up to a billboard. There's no call to action. So this kind of information, when we hear from students like this, it also helps us create actual materials that we don't have. Like, oh, well, this would go in a break room, and then you have options. Students talk to us a lot about a year ago about, well, I really like that I could do this or that, or I could choose what day of the week. I can't do that anywhere else. I didn't find a program where I could have this much flexibility. So it does help us create new materials, new messages, to connect with those students and find more of them. So it's meaningful, very meaningful, and your research will be used, definitely used. So what questions do you have for me?
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
The kiosk area, it's a really good idea, but I was wondering, do most of those students come here for classes, or are there other open
That's a good question. So they are spread out between 3 broad areas of campus: Mets, Cook Center, some of the nursing classes are over there in the evening, and then Santa Fe Commons, which is on the other side of Merlin and down like a quarter of a mile. And there is 1 building down there. So there are, I would say, 3 buildings in Olathe that they're in, and 1 building in Liberty, all contained. Now, in Santa Fe Commons and Mets, there are computer labs down here that, perhaps do we need something that's the same size for everybody? Do people respond to this? Was this helpful for them? If we start here, we've never asked the question because we've never had a full set of materials before. So this could also be a sub-part. This might be really good material for focus groups, especially, this is just a hint, if you do focus groups by broad area. So, it might be really interesting to ask nursing students, well, is this what you were interested in, or is what you wanted to know totally different than the content that's on this? Because as we look to review these materials, we're not married to the idea that they all have to be the exact same. We want them to be branded, but it could be that business gets a set of, that looks like this, and they are full-page things, but nursing, they want a packet of stuff. They don't want just one thing. They have this and this and this, so maybe we give them like a resource guide or something like that. So that's another eventual down the road example of how your data would be used.
If they were only able to do one focus group, one focus group and one survey, what would you envision the composition of that focus group looking like if that ended up being our time restriction?
I would say, I'd have to think about the composition of the focus group. I would say if you're only able to do one survey, I would break it down into attitudes and overall behaviors. So some of those things like I mentioned before, like who do you compare, how do you feel about us, where do you work, what was your biggest barrier coming back to school? So attitudes and behaviors, and then media habits would be my second part of a survey. If you were only able to do one, I would structure it probably like that, with equal weight to both. And I'd have to think about the focus group, which would be the most, but I will think about it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
They're only, I've definitely had groups do
Yeah.
2 focus groups. It's really common to do 1 or 2. Beyond that, though, for the time constraints that you
Okay.
have, it might be difficult.
I would say it would help us to drill down on, and again, I'd have to think about this, but competition is something that's really important to us right now, like understanding why did you choose MNU over someone else? So you told us you compared these other schools, but why Mid-America? And that might be the richest content for a focus group, to see how those answers differ across programs, even if you have kind of a mix of people that would participate in that. Or even, things like you could just address barriers. What was your number one question? What's the piece of information that was most, that you were looking for? Did you find that on our website? Did you not? If you did that make you want to walk in the door? So maybe either of those directions, barriers or competition.
Do you want them to, I want to make sure they're clear, and maybe you could describe a little bit the difference between marketing and admissions and how that works here at MNU. And then do you want any of their questions to be about satisfaction with the admissions process or anything like that?
Yes. So, can I close your door?
Yeah. I do that every once in a while. Okay.
You guys are all like, what?
Don't get serious.
Remember, this is
Okay,
it's
but
all
I
highly
hired you, so
confidential.
typically if I hire a vendor, there's a confidentiality agreement.
And you need to tell them that's fine because they
So,
know they're
that's a
aware of
real deal. A non-disclosure is what it's called in the business world. So, there is a separate group that handles admissions for professional and graduate students. They sit in that Santa Fe Commons building, and they also sit in Liberty. There are 8 of them right now total. And they take a student from the first phone call, I'm interested, all the way through. They also tell us typically like what tools they need. So they were the ones that said, we are getting a lot of students that are saying like, well, I didn't even know you guys had programs. And so they came to us and said, our recruiters have nothing to leave except our nice materials. So occasionally they will tell us, we need a tool like this, and our office creates it for them. Hopefully with information we already have available, so that we're not just doing it and fulfilling the order, so that it's meaningful. I will be stacking your survey probably with 2 or 3 questions that didn't come up today about the admissions process. We are looking to restructure how that group, it works entirely. Right now, they have one person that handles like outside recruiting, so they do business development, and then the rest of their team handles, like they sit in the office all day long, they meet with students, but it would be helpful if we had qualitative data to answer those questions. And so, like, for instance, Professor Valentine said, how satisfied were you with the admissions process? Maybe we add that question on, and it doesn't really seem to have anything to do with attitudes and behaviors or media habits. But if more than 10% of them say I'm unsatisfied with it, then that kind of helps us in discussions that we're already having for a much bigger issue, which is restructuring how should that group ideally work. And answering questions like, are people in the right roles? Do we need to have more outside people? Are our inside people answering, where's the hang up? So there will be a handful of questions that I just give you. You'll probably bring a proposed survey instrument to me, and we'll review it, and we'll work on tightening it up. And then I will probably just provide you and say, can you also add these 2 or 3 questions? Or could you, when you do your focus group, could you really talk about this and bring me some information back for this separate secret ops?
And so typically, they're told we would only, if you have to have a research objective for
Yeah.
everything that you,
Yeah.
anything we have on the focus group or the survey, you would have an objective for.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we won't have an explicit objective for this.
No.
Okay, so I'm just letting you know, usually, if we had something we were trying to accomplish, it would be an objective. But we're gonna leave it off and know Kim is gonna give you a few questions, but we're not gonna
Right.
put it out there explicitly.
So that will be the whole focus of our research
So
at all.
so what I'm saying to you is in your proposal, you don't need to have anything about the admissions process in your proposal.
But now you've heard me say that, yes, when we do it, don't think I'm crazy and don't think it's like, well, why is that related? It's not, but it's related to something else. So if we're asking them all this stuff, it's hard to get to them, so we might as well ask them this while we're at it.
But we'll help with that part.
Yeah. No other questions? You guys think
Everybody
this is
thinks you have enough to write everything about the background, the purpose of the research, go through all those parts. When you go through the methodology of the research, I want a separate section for secondary, focus group, survey. So there's 3 things we're doing, so you tell me what secondary stuff we need to gather. I want to know focus group, are you recommending 1, 2, composition of the focus group, that kind of thing, what you think the topic will be, same with the survey. So I want to make sure you have enough for your proposal, budget, timing. Oh, the other timing issue, we're a little off on the timing. They will be presenting to you, and they'll put it in the proposal, the date, but I think it will be May 5th
Okay,
or 6th, May
Okay.
6th.
okay.
So I don't
We'll
know
make
if
it work.
it's too late
Yeah,
for your
no, we'll
April
make it
date.
We'll make it work.
That's the timing of the
Yeah.
proposal.
We will not be buying media based on the data that we have again. It just is too old to use, so we'll wait for your stuff and we'll tighten our timelines. So another thing I'll just tell you, not about the research, but when we hire vendors in marketing, this is how it typically works. Like we say, I want this much, and obviously you cannot do all of that. So in your proposal, just work on, okay, well, I heard you say all this. This is based on what you've said, attitudes, behaviors, and media habits. This is how I'm recommending that you break it down. Because that's what this is a piece of real world advice. If you were really an agency and I was like craft, you would come back and you would say, okay, well, this is the most important information we need to make this decision. So this is how we're going to get it. You wouldn't say, okay, to do what you want. No, never work that way.
Yeah. And given our time constraints, and like I said, she mentioned, it would be ideal, wow, if we had 4 focus groups, and then we had this, and we're not,
Right.
we can't. And so you know the parameters already for what you have. I'm recommending, as you do your proposal, you're thinking 1 to 2 focus groups, and think how you would do that. And then it will be 1 survey instrument. Now, we can definitely branch it where if there's school of business, they answer certain questions, But, so be thinking about that. But it really, so like she's saying, we're not going to do maybe everything she wants, but we're going to propose to do a big, a chunk of it. So think about that.
I have a question, I don't know if it's really for you or for Mrs. Valentine, but as far as respondents, do you
Yes.
have a certain number that you would like to?
Last time, I believe it was a hand tally method, right?
Well,
Or
okay,
that
the
was
one
the interim one?
I would say that was the interim one. The one, I
So-
have to look up the data from 2008.
Okay, 8 is the last one.
2010, I don't even know 2010.
Right. I would love, this is really high for any marketing, I would love to have 10% response rate.
And I don't think that's too far-fetched for this population. Now, if I was just telling you to go out to the city of Olathe and
Right.
whatever, who doesn't know us, doesn't care about us, whatever, that 10% is crazy. 10% for our population of current students, and I do suggest, we have definitely done kiosks before. That's going to bump your response rate up because you make it right there available and you've got something to give them, So there are ways, remember we talked about, there are ways to get response rates up. And they're already a population size, what sample size do I need to get, how many people is it going to take to do that, how many focus groups. Those things help you determine how much money you're going to spend.
So based on that last set, I guess we can look up later, but how many questions usually do you want it to be, a lot?
It really depends. Like if you do a branching method, like she just explained, it's totally different than if you would do the same set for everybody because those would have to be way more general. So it would probably be based on your recommendation of what route to take to get to that information. I mean, just think about the audience. They don't have 15 minutes to sit down and take a survey with no warning, but they might have 5.
And I can kind of help you with
Or
the length and how many
Yeah.
questions would be on it, but
I guess on the other side of that coin is, okay, but they might not take it when they come to class, so that might be one option for them. But if we're emailing it in addition, then maybe they'll take it on their own time, and they would. But if we can put in the subject line of the email, 5-minute survey, your input matters, you know, that, I mean, is that helpful sometimes? So that might eventually influence your length.
I think you kind of hear, I think one, the survey I did in 2008 was very long. It took a lot longer than 5 minutes. So I think we have to tone that back to do. But, so you can hear she's shooting for maybe 5 minutes. You know, we've talked about that number in class before, so.
Which really means it can be 6.
Yeah. Just 7.
As part of your research, you can test how long it takes a member of your group to take the survey, and then plan accordingly.
Oh, that's what we'll do. We'll pre-test it. That's how we determine how long it takes. Yeah.
Ethical? More ethical than writing yourself $100 bonus. I did hear that. That's okay. I'll have to sign off on all your check requests if you're in this group.
We won't let them do that.
Will you give them a little bit of advice? You mentioned it was going to be difficult to get the lists of the population.
Yeah, it is.
The population of interest. And remember I told you guys, that's one of the very first things, once you get your project identified, we do not wait until we're doing the survey to figure out our list, our sampling frame, the list of population of interest. So could you give some recommendations to
Yeah.
them about the best ways to get
There are
a
like
list?
2 options. You can either go through the registrar's office. There is a form that I would probably have to fill out on your behalf, where I sign off on, you guys are doing a project for us, and this is the type of list that I need. They typically have a 1-week minimum turnaround time for that list, for you to even like see, or me to even see, okay, that means we have how many people? I mean, I don't even know, I don't know anything, and how many of them do we have email addresses for? So that's one option. I think the slightly better option, which is still not ideal, every program has a department, you know, is represented under a professional and graduate studies department of something. So for business, there is professional studies and management for the bachelor's degree program. There is graduate studies and management. 2 different offices, they are in the same building across the street. 2 different administrative assistants that probably have current class rosters. So that might be a better way. If I were to say of the 2 options, that would probably be the better way. Now, that involves talking to more than just one person. Like, that's the benefit of the registrar's office. I just go to one place and I get hopefully everything I need. So we are talking about counseling, PSM, GSM, nursing, graduate nursing. Education. So we're talking about like 6 or 7 contacts that you'd have to make to get that information. So,
That's going to be by far the better method.
okay.
Just FYI.
But just to prepare you, yeah, that would, you know, maybe I could write you a letter, send a, you know, a note of, here's what's coming, these students from this class are going to contact you in the next week, here's what I need you to do on behalf of the marketing office. If they were doing it, I would be doing it, so, you know, they're just as important as they're an extension of the marketing office for this project. So please, give them the list of students.
I think that's
who
super
currently
important for you to remember
So-
too, that everything you do, you need to go through Kim. You are representing her department. So if you just randomly go to an office and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I need a list. They're like, who are you? What are you talking about? You can't do that because everything you do will reflect on them and the professionalism of their department. So if you ever have a question about something, ask me, ask her, but don't just, and I have had students who have randomly just shown up somewhere and thought somebody would know. No one knows about this project. no one on campus knows that we're doing this. So we have to go about it, send an official request, ask the right people, go through the right channels. So you really are treating this, you are working for them and you want to make them look good and,
And then the other thing I will just tell you in full disclosure, I have a schedule that could rival Dr. Spittle's probably. And I have 2 offices here at MNU. So I am in Dobson or I'm in Santa Fe Commons. So I am not hard to get a hold of, but hard to get a meeting with. So I mean, like my calendar is booked 2 weeks in advance at least. So just think about that. If you're on this project, you just have to take that into account during your planning. This is a priority, so it's not going to be difficult for us to get a time together. It's just we have to plan ahead more than if you're going to pop into Ron Jackson's office. Not just saying, he's got a different job. I'm not saying he's not busy. He just has a different job. So he has one office.
Good note.
Yeah.
that's gonna hit the proposal. And that is a really great thing to mention too, because you can't wait, notice that 1 week turnaround time. Well, you guys operate in we're gonna launch this tomorrow. You have to plan. Everything's being planned ahead. All these adults who are gonna come to these focus groups, they need lots of notice. They might need to get a babysitter. This is a lot of a forward thinking. It is not what's gonna happen tomorrow or next Friday. It is planning ahead a lot, including with working with Kim. And she has to approve your focus group guide, your survey before it launches. So if I say survey launches on Friday, you can't go to her on Thursday or Friday morning and get it approved. She's got to give you feedback. I get it approved. So I'll help you with all that, but I'm just making sure this is not a last minute wing it kind of deal.
Right. And I'm not traveling this semester, so I will be here. Which sometimes I'm not, so I will be here. This is a great audition if you want to work in the marketing office. We have positions available. So this is my separate plug for that.
Yep. And everybody that works there loves it.
If you can write, you can have a job tomorrow in the marketing office. We like it, right? Okay.
Any other questions? You could leave.
I'm looking at you.